A 9-month-old, jaundice, vomiting, enlarged liver, low blood sugar. My gut says galactosemia. That feels like a lock.
That gut reaction is exactly what this question is built to punish. Everything you just listed fits galactosemia. And galactosemia is not the answer.
Then what did I miss?
One line in the history. Hold that thought, and let's take the case from the top, the way the timeline actually happened. She was born at term and did beautifully on one thing only: exclusive breastfeeding. Completely well, no vomiting, no jaundice, growing normally.
So for 9 months, on breast milk, nothing was wrong.
Nothing. Then about 2 weeks ago, the parents start weaning her, mashed pear, a little diluted apple juice. And that is when everything begins.
Begins how?
Vomiting after most feeds. An hour or two after eating, she turns drowsy and sweaty. Today she looks yellow. Her liver is enlarged, her transaminases are up, and her blood sugar is low.
So she was fine on milk and fell apart when the fruit went in.
Underline that sentence. That single fact is the entire question. Here is the whole question. A 9-month-old well on exclusive breastfeeding develops vomiting, low blood sugar, jaundice, and an enlarged liver about 2 weeks after weaning onto pear and apple juice. Which enzyme is most likely deficient? Your 5 options: A. Aldolase B. Fructokinase, C. Galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, GALT, D. Galactokinase, E. Glucose 6-phosphatase.
5 enzymes. And honestly, 3 of them I can barely tell apart by name.
That is the real test here. Not the biology, the naming. Pause, say your letter out loud, and commit before the reveal. Choosing first is the part that actually builds the memory. The answer is A, aldolase B. The disease is hereditary fructose intolerance.
Aldolase B, okay. Walk me back from my galactosemia instinct because it genuinely fit.
It fit the symptoms. It did not fit the timing, and the timing is the discriminator. Ask one question. What sugar was she eating when she got sick? For 9 months, only breast milk. Breast milk sugar is lactose, and lactose is glucose plus galactose. There is no fructose in it at all.
So if her problem were with galactose,
she would have been sick from her very first days of breastfeeding because galactose was in every single feed. Instead, she was perfectly well. That one fact crosses galactosemia off.
And the fruit?
Fruit and juice are where fructose enters. Free fructose plus sucrose, which is glucose plus fructose. She got sick the moment fructose came into her diet. The sugar she just started names the enzyme.
So the question isn't which sick baby with a big liver disease. It's which sugar and when.
That is the move that transfers. Time the symptoms to the diet, and the pathway names itself.
Why does missing one enzyme wreck the liver and drop her sugar?
Follow the fructose. First it gets a phosphate stuck onto it and becomes fructose 1-phosphate. Aldolase B is the enzyme that splits that molecule, so metabolism can continue. She hasn't got it.
So the fructose 1-phosphate just piles up.
It piles up in the liver, and it does 2 nasty things. First, building all that fructose 1-phosphate ties up the cell's phosphate, and with no free phosphate, the liver cannot run glycogen breakdown or make new glucose. That is her low blood sugar.
And the jaundice, the enlarged liver.
The accumulated fructose 1-phosphate is directly toxic to liver cells. Poison the hepatocytes and you get the big liver, the rising transaminases, the yellow skin. One blocked step explains every finding on the page.
Before we go further, you keep saying lactose is glucose plus galactose, no fructose. How do I keep all these sugar names straight? They blur together for me.
Learn them by their word roots and they stop blurring. The ending O's just means a sugar. The front of the word tells you where that sugar comes from.
Give me the single sugars first.
3 that matter. Glucose, the root gluck, means sweet. It is your default blood sugar. Fructose. Fruct is Latin for fruit. That is your fruit sugar. Galactose. Galact is Greek for milk, the same root as galaxy, the Milky Way.
So fruct equals fruit. That is literally the trigger of this whole case.
That is the whole case sitting in the word. Now the double sugars, the disaccharides, and every one of them is glucose plus one partner. Lactose is milk sugar. Lact is milk, as in lactation. It is glucose plus galactose. Sucrose is table sugar. Sucre is the French word for sugar. It is glucose plus fructose. Maltose is malt sugar, from beer, and it is glucose plus glucose.
Is there a trick so I never mix up lactose and galactose? Those two are my problem.
A clean one. Spell galactose out. Galactose. Drop the JA at the front and what is left is lactose. The word galactose literally has lactose hidden inside it because galactose is one half of lactose. Milk sugar, built from a milk sugar.
And that is why breast milk carries no fructose.
Exactly. Breast milk is lactose, glucose, and galactose. Fructose only appears when the fruit does. The names were carrying the answer the whole time.
Fine, but here is my real problem. Fructokinase tells me it works on fructose. Aldolase tells me nothing. How do I connect that name to fructose under pressure?
Good. Because enzymes get named two different ways. Some are named for their substrate. Fructokinase acts on fructose, galactokinase acts on galactose. The name hands you the sugar.
And aldolase does not.
Aldolase is named for its reaction, not its substrate. The word comes from aldol, that is aldehyde plus alcohol. Aldolase runs the aldol reaction. It takes a 6-carbon sugar and splits it clean in half into two 3-carbon pieces, and one of those pieces is an aldehyde.
So the name describes the cut, not the thing being cut.
Exactly. So make the link once and keep it. Aldolase is the knife that cuts fructose in half. See aldolase, think fructose. And aldolase B is the liver's version that handles dietary fructose 1-phosphate. So aldolase B failing is the fructose disease.
Something is bugging me. Everything here is one enzyme handling one single sugar. Are the sugar diseases always at that level? What about the double sugars and the big starches?
Great question, and the answer is no. A sugar problem can break at 3 different places, and where it breaks decides how sick you get.
Walk me through the 3.
Level 1. Splitting a double sugar in the gut. Lactase splits lactose. Lose it, and that is lactose intolerance. Sucrase splits sucrose. These enzymes work in the gut wall before anything is absorbed.
So if you cannot split it,
the sugar just sits in the gut, pulls in water, and bacteria ferment it. Bloating, gas, diarrhea. It never actually gets into your body. So these are uncomfortable, but benign. No liver damage, no low blood sugar.
Level 2 is our case.
Level 2. Metabolizing a single sugar after it is absorbed. Aldolase B, GALT. The sugar is inside the cell now, and a toxic phosphate-tagged version piles up in the liver. That is the dangerous level, the one that gives you the jaundice and the low sugar.
And level 3, the starches.
Level 3, glycogen, the body's storage starch, a polysaccharide. Those are the glycogen storage diseases like von Gierke. And Pompe, whose enzyme is literally a maltase that chews glycogen apart. Big liver, or muscle problems. So the double sugars and the starches absolutely cause disease. They just do not look like our case.
So the one-line filter is
cannot split it in the gut. It stays in the gut. Diarrhea, benign. Cannot handle it once it is inside the cell. It poisons the liver. Where the block sits tells you the whole story.
Back to the dangerous level, the single sugar enzymes. How many of those diseases are there? I want the full set, not just ours.
For the exam, count 2 sugars, fructose and galactose, and each one has a 2-enzyme pathway. So 6 disorders, and they mirror each other perfectly.
Give me the fructose side.
First enzyme, fructokinase. Lose it, and you get essential fructosuria. Harmless fructose just spills into the urine. Second enzyme, aldolase B, lose it, and fructose 1-phosphate accumulates. Hereditary fructose intolerance, our dangerous case. There is a third, fructose 1.6-bisphosphatase, but that one really belongs to gluconeogenesis. It is just riding along.
And galactose mirrors it.
Beat for beat. First enzyme, galactokinase, lose it and you mainly get cataracts. Second enzyme, GALT, lose it and galactose 1-phosphate accumulates. Classic galactosemia, the severe one. Plus a rare third, the epimerase.
So the pattern is the memory.
The pattern is everything. First enzyme deficiency, mild. Second enzyme deficiency, severe, because the second enzyme is exactly where the phosphate-tagged sugar piles up, traps phosphate, and poisons the liver. Same shape on both sides. Learn one, you own all 6. Now the options fall in seconds. GALT, galactosemia, was the tempting one, and you already know why it is out. Wrong sugar, wrong timing. She was well on breast milk, so galactose is not the culprit.
What about fructokinase? That is the fructose pathway too.
Same pathway, opposite severity. First enzyme, mild. Fructokinase deficiency is essential fructosuria. Benign. No vomiting, no liver damage, no low sugar. A sick baby with a toxic liver is not the harmless one.
Galactokinase.
Cataracts, essentially. A cloudy lens in an infant, not vomiting and liver failure. Wrong picture and wrong sugar.
And glucose 6-phosphatase. Von Gierke also gives a big liver and low sugar.
It does, but that is a glycogen problem, level 3. And its low sugar comes from fasting, not from eating one specific sugar. It drags lactic acidosis and high uric acid along too. Nothing here is triggered by fasting, and everything is triggered by fruit. That is not von Gierke.
Change one thing and make it galactosemia. What flips it?
Move the timing. Same infant, same enlarged liver. But she was sick from her very first days of breastfeeding and never tolerated milk at all. Now the trigger is the galactose inside lactose, and the answer becomes GALT. Classic galactosemia.
So, one variable, when the symptoms started, moves the whole answer.
That is the entire point of the case. The disease never changed shape. The sugar and the timing did. 3 things to keep. Content. Weaning onto fruit or juice. Then vomiting, low sugar, jaundice, big liver. Hereditary fructose intolerance, aldolase B. Sick from the first milk feeds instead. Galactosemia, GALT. Reasoning. Time the symptoms to the diet. The sugar the child just started names the pathway. Do not let sick infant big liver jump you straight to galactosemia. And the map you now own? 2 sugars, fructose and galactose, 2 enzymes each, first mild and second severe. And a sugar disease can break in the gut, benign diarrhea, in the cell, a toxic liver, or in glycogen. One case, the whole territory.
Which sugar and when, then place it on the map.
That is the exam skill and the memory in a single move.